This is a Pele Media podcast.
Welcome back to Goonies Minute, everybody. Goonies Minute is the fan podcast where we carefully explore the film Goonies minute by minute. I'm Brady.
And this is Chris.
And today we're covering minute number 29. Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing so fabulous.
Fabulous. You know, we need to apologize to our non-Baton Rouge listeners of the show because yesterday we kind of went on our little nostalgia trip about the antique train you used to be able to walk through here in town. And I can't remember even how we got off on that subject.
Well, no, I'll tell you how, because they had the wheels of a train car outside the restaurant.
Right.
But don't worry, everybody that listened to this went and looked up at that train on the internet to see what we were talking about. So never fear.
Never fear, Brady.
Never fear.
Never fear.
Never fear. Well, you ready to get into the minute?
With that said, let's get into the minute.
Let's do it.
In the previous minute, we saw the four Goonies follow the map to an abandoned restaurant. They ducked for cover as they noticed two people walking into the restaurant. At 29 minutes, Chunk continues to put forth ideas about how dangerous the situation looks. At 29 minutes and 16 seconds, the gang continue to follow the map directions up to the restaurant. At 29 minutes and 18 seconds, two gunshots ring out from within the building. The gang all freeze dead in their tracks. At 29 minutes and 22 seconds, Chunk begins to shout about how the noises had to be gunshots. Everyone tells him to shut up, and that the sounds must have been pots falling over. At 29 minutes and 40 seconds, they run onto the porch. Chunk continues to insist they not go in. At 29 minutes and 45 seconds, Mouth and Data quietly sneak around the corner of the porch. Mikey follows. At 29 minutes and 57 seconds, Chunk is distracted by a drink cooler and runs to it. And thus ends minute 29 of the Goonies. So here we are at the Lighthouse Lounge. And the Lighthouse Lounge, as I was saying yesterday, unfortunately is not a real location. That was something that was built by the film crew, which I was kind of disappointed in.
Is it still around today, though?
I don't believe.
Okay.
I think it was torn down. You know what's interesting, though, and I guess the connection here is Steven Spielberg. The island of Kauai, where they filmed Jurassic Park, one of the islands, they actually left up some of the structures. And I don't know if you've seen that movie in a while, but there's the big Jurassic Park gates that the cars go through. Yeah. Well, they tore that down, but the big pylons that gate stood on are still there. You can actually still go and see those. Yeah, and there's a few other little things. I've always enjoyed that, being able to go somewhere and see a filming location. Listen to this. When my dad was a little kid, he was like, I don't know, 12 years old. He had some family somewhere in Texas. I can't quite remember where. And he would go see them all the time. And their backyard backed up to just all this open land. And there was like kind of a cliff face right there. Not something huge. And he went down there one day and was just kind of exploring around. And there was a little cave that went inside of this cliff. And he goes in there and he starts noticing bits and pieces of like equipment, like industrial looking stuff. And he's like, this is strange. How'd this get left here? And it was film equipment. Like film reel cans and stuff like that.
That's awesome.
And he picks up some of the paperwork, and it's like call sheets and scripts notes and stuff for an old Western that had been shot there.
Did they find out did you find the name of it?
He doesn't remember what it was.
That would be cool.
Yes, but he remembers the town that it was shot in, and he thinks he might remember.
We gotta find that.
Yeah,
out.
It would have been before a certain year in the late 1950s. And it would have been filmed in this particular town. So that's like a starting point to search for.
It could have been a John Wayne movie, partner.
Might have been. But let's get back to the Goonies.
Let's do it.
So the Lighthouse Lounge is fake, as I said. The lighthouse itself, however, that you see through the doubloon is not. That's actually a real lighthouse. It's the Tillamook Rock Lighthouse, which is now in the National Historic Registry. And the lighthouse proved to be pretty unuseful. The very month in which it opened, there was a shipwreck right outside of it. So 16.
Was it the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald?
No.
It wasn't? Okay.
Believe it or not.
Okay.
But there were 16 people who died. So the lighthouse was not, ever since like month one, it wasn't really working. So it ended up being shut down for that reason, as well as a lot of weather decay that it incurred, because that's just
I'm telling you what about lighthouses. They are creepy to me. Have you ever seen a lighthouse on a sunny day just sitting there and everything's fine? No. We only see lighthouses in movies, or we see them on the Discovery Channel, and there's giant waves crashing up against them. And there's movies you've watched as a child, even made for TV movies where people get killed. Nothing ever goes well. Nothing goes right at a lighthouse.
Yeah.
Horrible things happen. I mean, I remember even in Perfect Storm, they got a lighthouse in that, and bad stuff happens in. So I tell you what, when there's a lighthouse involved, there's some weird stuff going on.
You can guarantee it.
I'm telling you, it's true. I'm dying.
There you go. No. You're absolutely right. That could never be my job. One of those guys who lives in a lighthouse.
No.
Well, so what else? What do you have?
Well, what's interesting, Data says only 2 customers, and then Chunk is like, drug dealers, and he's like, drug dealers wouldn't wear polyester like that.
Yeah.
And so we're thinking it's the FBI guys, because then you hear the 2 gunshots, and it kind of stops everybody.
Yeah. But then
and then Chunk is really well. Real quick, you hear the gunshots, and Chunk is the one that gets really afraid, and the other ones are really not afraid and are making fun of Chunk for being afraid. Is there anybody in the world that could hear 2 gunshots outside of being as a Marine in Afghanistan that would be so not afraid?
Right.
I mean, it's so unique about that.
Here's who wouldn't be afraid of that, or here's who would be able to write off that fear. Is little kids, little boys on an adventure.
Yeah. That's got to be it.
I think that's why that moment is there. They do have
because maybe they've never heard a gunshot in real life, so they don't know to be afraid of that. You ever thought about that?
Could be it.
Because I'm gonna tell you this right now.
And
I can remember the first time, not me shooting a gun or someone shooting a gun near me, but the first time I've ever heard like a gunshot in the distance. I didn't necessarily know it was a gunshot or was afraid of that, okay? Because there's a different noise to that from a little bit of a distance inside that you might not get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because you're not near the danger. Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, just it sounds different. It sounds different from a distance. And let's face it, I've heard many of sounds that might sound like that from a distance that probably weren't really gunshots. Now, is it pots falling? No, that's a little ridiculous. But I don't know. I mean, I think that's what they're the whole little kid thing, not being afraid, the naivety. The fact that little kids are naive.
There you go.
But the fact that they're naive, I think Donner wants us to think that that's the reason. But again, I do think there was a thought process involved to them not being. They're smarter than me, so they've got to be thinking, hey, why are they continuing?
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious why the moment is there. It's there to show that these kids are able to say like, oh, shut up, Chunk, that was nothing. Nothing's going to stop us from going on this adventure, so we're going to go into denial mode and go right through.
Right.
But I do see what you're saying in that there's another reason, like within the movie there.
Yeah, they were definitely thinking about it, and then they walk up. And Chunk's like, they're going to kill us, and they kind of creep around, and then Chunk goes to the soda pop machine, says, I'm thirsty, and that's where the minute ends. So, this is a really significant, I can tell you this, when we watched the movie, the 2 people in the sedan walking up, we really didn't even pay much attention to that.
Yeah.
For all the many times that we watched it, even though we heard the gunshots. Mm-hmm. But watching it in the minute, it's like, okay, that's probably those FBI agents.
Right. One of which you're going to be able to meet face to face in a little while.
Chunk's going to enjoy that pretty soon.
Some interesting information about that actor, too, but we will get there when we get there.
So, that's pretty much it. Things are really about to get interesting once we get in that old restaurant. So
that's true. This adventure takes a whole new turn.
That's it for me for now.
That's all I've got for right now, too. So, everybody, thank you again for tuning in today and this week. And we want you to go out and have a great weekend. And until Monday, when we will reconvene here with minute number 30, I'm Brady.
And this is Chris.
And we're here to remind you that Goonies
never say die.
Goonies Minute is a fan-supported podcast. If you like the show, then leave us a review on iTunes. You can find us at GooniesMinute.com, Facebook.com/GooniesMinute, Twitter.com/GooniesMinute, and at Instagram @GooniesMinute. You can contact us at GooniesMinute@gmail.com. You've been listening to a Pele Media podcast. For premium content and exclusive podcasts, visit us at patreon.com/Pele Media. Check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/Pele Media and follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/Pele Media.